So do you hate this more than you did hate it previously?
I don't think I hate it more. I feel like I hate it sharper, like my hate has crystallized into a perfect diamond. It's like laser focused hate. I know exactly what I hate about it, and I know exactly how they could have fixed it, and then they just chose not to.
Yeah. Ah, God damn. All right, cool. Hi, welcome to the Cinderella podcast, where we watch and review every Cinderella adaptation we can get our hands on, discussing the same story over and over until we rapidly go insane. I'm Liv.
And I'm Talon, and today we watched a Cinderella story made in 2004, and this is the High School Diner Cinderella.
Yep, sure is. Also known as the Hilary Duff Cinderella.
Yes, correct. Would you like to hear just some random facts before we get started?
Oh, I would love to delay starting this for as long as possible.
So, the person that directed this, Mark Rosman, is also the same guy that directed Life Size, the movie with Tyra Banks and Lindsay Lohan, in which Tyra Banks is like a Barbie that becomes a person through dark magic.
You know, I've heard of that and I've managed to avoid watching it. I'm going to continue to avoid watching it.
Okay. This film has also inspired 4 straight to video sequels, which we will all be getting to know very well. And it is also considered a cult classic. And I'm gonna try and figure out why.
Okay, I know exactly why it's a cult classic. It's because Lizzie McGuire used to be on TV right when we would all get off of high school. And so we're used to Hilary Duff as seeing her face and associating it with this sweet release of the prison that is public education. And we like Chad Michael Murray because he was in Freaky Friday, which was a phenomenally better movie, and I would much rather discuss that instead of this.
I didn't like him in that either.
No, but I liked the movie.
Right,
Freaky
yes,
Friday is a
correct.
great movie, and he's fun because he's not very good in it, but it's fun to watch people act around him. And I don't want to watch this. I'm mad that we watched it again.
Yeah, dear listeners, this is one of the films that we watched before we decided that this should be a podcast. And now we have watched it a second time, and we are not happy about that.
Nope. I think if we start, we get to end. So
Right,
can you
yes.
can you set the scene for anybody who is blessed enough to have never seen this monstrosity? Um, what's the deal with this one?
So the deal with this one is that it's set in modern times, which for this movie is 2004. It is very aggressively 2004. And in it, Cinderella is the least rich girl at a very rich school, is I think the plot.
Yes. She is a member of the working class, as are other people, but it only counts for her. Okay, so guys, just real quick, the premise of this movie is that she is a tomboy and she works in a diner, and people make fun of her at school because she works in a diner. Spoiler alert, the prince of this movie works at a car wash. It's his dad's car wash. He's always there in big onesies that car wash people wear, and his friends know that he does this, and his snotty cheerleader girlfriend knows he does this. Everyone knows that he does this, and I'm just going to go ahead and say I think that being employed at a car wash is exactly as service industry as being employed at a diner. So I don't understand that, and I will continue to hate it until I die.
Oh, you're completely right. Because if she had been working at just any random diner, like I would understand them making the distinction that it's his father's business versus like she just has a job because she has to have a job. But it's her stepmother's diner previously owned by her dad.
It's so dumb. This movie is also full of through lines that are only through lines because they go through the entire movie. They never go anywhere. Nothing ever hinges on them. They don't matter.
So once upon a time, The film starts with like a very fairy tale font, and you see a big princess castle in the mountains as it pans to it. And it goes, once upon a time in a faraway kingdom lived a beautiful little girl and her widowed father. And then it turns out that what we're seeing is the interior of
Snow globe.
a snow globe. Thank you. So it turns out that this beautiful castle is actually the interior of a snow globe, and she lives in the San Fernando Valley. And she had like a beautiful, wonderful childhood. She and her dad were best friends. They played baseball together. This is supposed to be like a big theme in this, but we don't see it pay off in any way.
And it
And
could. It could pay off. It I, okay, I'm fine. I'm fine.
yeah, the setup was there. Like it would have been so
Oh,
easy.
it would have been so easy for that to matter.
Anyway, dad has a diner. It's called Hal's Diner.
Where diet is a four-letter word.
Yeah, that's part of her description. So this movie has
Ugh.
this belief that all girls are shallow and vapid and they care about diet culture, the thing that has been socialized for women to care about all the time. But it mocks them for it.
It is also required, though. You have to be part of diet. You can't be anything other than quite trim.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
we make fun of that too in this movie. But if you're on a diet or eating healthy, God forbid, that's also bad, and you are shallow and vapid for that. So this was 2004, and I feel like this was a big deal. I seem to remember that the concept of accepting your body for what it is and being healthy, whatever that means to you, is your business and literally nobody else's business, didn't really kick in until I want to say at least 2012, 2015, maybe. It's a newish thing. It wasn't around in 2004.
I completely believe that there was a really, as is still, like a really toxic atmosphere about this, but that doesn't stop this joke from being played out
Oh,
because they're like, oh, all other girls care about salads and you would eat a Big Mac and that makes you cool special girl.
no,
And
okay,
I maintain that even given allowances for the time period, isn't that wild that that's a time period?
yeah.
Uh, Even given allowances for that, that's already like a dumb joke. Like that's a dumb joke and they could have done better.
Okay, but the line isn't salad or burger, because I'll let you know, I've had some delicious damn salads. The line is, would you rather have a rice cake or a burger? A rice cake. A rice cake. Would you like to have oven dried packing peanuts or a burger? Gee, I don't know. Let me gnaw my toenails off while I think about it. I hated this movie. So, anyways, it's Cinderella's birthday. She's still expositing about how perfect her life was.
She's still 8 in this.
She's still 8. At her birthday party, what will become her stepmother trips and falls into her father's arms, and ominous music plays. This is Fiona. What is the character that she plays in Legally Blonde? What is
She's the nail tech.
the nails? She has a name. Guys, I'm so sorry. She plays the nail tech in Legally Blonde. She's fabulous. Fiona is one of the best parts of this movie. There's like two, but she's one of them. So
She's played
there's
by
three.
Jennifer Coolidge, and she does it so strangely. And when we first see her, she's dressed kind of dowdy, and as the film goes on, she transforms into hot pink Malibu Barbie, basically.
As in, her hair is brown when we first see her, and she's wearing glasses, and she is, curvy. And when we cut to 8 years later and we see her, she is blonde. She's had a whole bunch of work done. She's got boobs out to here. She's got huge tracts of land, is what she's got. And she just does a lot of body mod maintenance, I guess. Tanning and Botox and stuff. Okay, but before we can cut to that, the dad has to die because it's the only thing this movie gets right.
He dies in the weirdest way. They're reading a fairy tale together before bedtime, and our Cinderella, whose name is Sam, goes, Do fairy tales really come true, Dad? And he goes, no, but dreams come true. And that he wants her to go to college and someday build her own castle. And then we get the dumbest line of the movie.
Oh, it's so dumb.
Just hands down, by far the dumbest line. Where do princesses go to college? And the dad thinks about it for a second and goes, where princes go. They go to Princeton.
I hate this joke. I hated it the first time. I hate it now. I've always hated it. It's a stupid joke. It's a stupid pun to hinge an entire movie on.
Yeah, this isn't a throwaway line. This is Cinderella's entire character motivation. Her entire goal in life is to go to Princeton, and it's based on the single throwaway line when she's 8.
Well, to be fair, it probably has more relevance to her because that is the night her dad dies.
So her father tells her his catchphrase, which is, don't let the fear of striking out keep you from playing the game. And then suddenly, shaking, and we get an earthquake, and he stands in the doorway with Sam, and we hear Fiona call from somewhere else in the house. And Sam goes, don't go. And he goes, I'll be right back. And she reaches for him, and he leaves. And then we cut to the shattered snow globe because he's dead. Like, he's dead.
Yeah. We get a slow-mo, very dramatic hands pulling away from one another as she hangs onto his hand and he slow-mo leaves to go down the hallway. And I've never been in an earthquake. I will be very frank. I know that earthquakes can be devastating. I would like to be clear, we're not mocking earthquakes. This is just a stupid death.
The way they shot it is so bizarre because it literally looks like if his daughter's fine and everybody else is fine, like what happened to him as he walked down the hall?
Who knows? We're going to have to do a deep dive into how exactly we think the father died.
Oh, I think Fiona killed him.
Oh. How did she kill him and make it look like an accident? She
I
doesn't
think
have
she
any
tripped him
into what? Into a pit
down
into
the
hell?
stairs.
He wouldn't die from a trip down the stairs.
He could if he broke his
Maybe
neck.
maybe she had some like amazing Macaulay Culkin Home Alone thing where one of the rafters falls and smushes him and it looks like the earthquake did it, but it was really her. Oh, I want to do this. I want that to be the movie. Can we talk about that for the next hour instead of this?
We gotta focus.
Guys, we're like 5 minutes into the movie. All right.
The narration goes, I lost my best friend that day. The only fairy tales in my life were the ones I read in books. There wasn't a will. So Fiona got everything, the house, the diner, and to her dismay, me. And we see tiny little Sam moving up into what is a very cute attic bedroom. It's very spacious. She has a bed, she has windows. We're supposed to feel bad for her, but her room is nicer than any room that I had as a kid.
It's an attic room, so it has dormers and sloped ceilings, which is super cute. And the thing about it that's terrible is that it's not painted and it's got stuff in it that's not bedroom stuff. It's just the boxes up there. So that's the terrifying travail is that she lives in an adorable attic and has privacy.
It's hard to find empathy for her because everything in her life is like not that bad.
Okay,
And
so I'm going to push back on that a little bit. Right now, it's not that bad. We don't feel empathy for her now. Later, when she describes what her schedule is, I do feel bad for her later.
I believe that living with Fiona is terrible. But I think that the things that she's made fun of by her classmates and the things that she expresses insecurity about, I find it hard to empathize with.
Agreed. 100%
Because
agreed.
she's like, oh, I drive a junker car. She's 16 and she has her own car.
Yeah.
Like, not every 16-year-old gets that. Most 16-year-olds don't get that.
No, like rich 16-year-olds get that. I got my first car 2 years ago. I'm 30, guys. It didn't age real well, is what I'm saying.
Mm. So
All
there's
so
like aggressive 2000s dude rock playing,
yep.
which is a trend in this movie. And we cut to 8 years later, and the house is pink now with an elephant topiary.
So we see Sam, and she is asleep at her desk with her computer, and we can hear the stepmother calling her over A radio? A walkie-talkie? It's unclear.
Their home has a speaker system specifically so that Fiona can more effectively boss Sam around.
Yeah.
It's
It
incredible.
she is calling for her breakfast.
Sam has a Princeton flag on the wall in her room, so we know that she's still real focused on Princeton.
Oh, a piece of trivia is their books on this shelf in her room are Harry Potter because he lived under a closet and she lives in an attic and they're both orphans and that makes it relevant. And I was hoping for better trivia is what I was hoping for. Fun trivia about this movie. Hilary Duff drove herself to and from sets because she was still working on getting her driver's license and needed to get the hours.
That's cute.
So yeah, that was the only piece of good trivia I got from this.
So Fiona is hanging out by the pool. She is laying on a lounge chair and she's wearing sunglasses, and her lips are very, very different shape than you would expect lips to be. And she's got them pursed. The stepsisters are in the pool and they're doing like synchronized swimming, and just their coach is calling things out to them and they're moving very awkwardly in the water.
This will also be a through line that doesn't go anywhere.
But we will mention it every time it comes up. We had to deal with it.
Oh yeah, so you're going to suffer with us. Fiona goes, "Can you believe how gifted my girls are?" And the teacher says one of those teacher things that sounds like he's agreeing, but he's definitely not.
Absolutely unbelievable, really.
Yes. This is where we get our first salmon joke or reference, I guess. Joke is too strong of a word. I apologize. We get our first Norwegian salmon reference. This will also be a through line. There's so many through lines. They don't
It's too many. It's
go
bad.
anywhere.
So Fiona asks Sam if this is the Norwegian salmon that she asked for. And Sam goes, yeah. And she goes, I can tell. You can almost taste the Norwegia.
So we know that she is uneducated. She's on a salmon diet. This will make it into a bunch of parts of the movie. Is it relevant? No. In the pool, one of the sisters farts. There's bubbles. There's two sisters. We should try to describe the stepsisters.
Yes, we
'Cause
should
we
try
haven't-
to describe everyone. We didn't describe Sam other than saying she's Hilary Duff.
I mean, she looks like Hilary Duff. Okay, so Sam is our Cinderella. She has straight blonde hair with bangs that are sort of artfully feathered to frame her face.
They're not feathered, they're choppy.
Whatever. I've got princess hair. I don't know what people do with cut hair. It's various different lengths is what it is. And she looks kind of grunge punky. She's always got a couple of necklaces and she wears
A lot of Henleys.
layered tank top looks and jeans and stuff. She just looks cool. She just looks very 2004. She has sort of a whiny quality to her voice at all times, which is not something that she can evidently turn off. Fiona is, as we said, the nail tech from Legally Blonde. So she is large, tall, statuesque, imposing. In this one, she is done up as Malibu Barbie. So she is the fakest, hottest, pinkest, blondest, lipstickest, spiky heelsest person that you can possibly imagine.
So there's two stepsisters. We're told that they're twins. They look very different from each other. There's a taller, skinnier one and a shorter, curvier one.
I guess.
The taller one is noticeably dumber than the shorter one. And she's also got like straight brown hair, and the shorter one has kind of reddish hair.
The tall one also has shorter hair. You know, it goes to her shoulders, and the short one has long hair.
They always dress in matching outfits. So it's the same outfit in a different color from each other, but they're always like complementary colors.
So here's the thing. They try to do color schemes in this to match the original Cinderella. So that's why Sam usually wears blue, and one of the stepsisters usually wears red, and the other one wears sort of greens.
I didn't notice that at all. That's wild.
No, I didn't notice it because it's stupid. But it is one of the trivia pieces that trivia wanted me to know, that they consciously tried to do a thing. Why that was the thing that they wanted
They
to
did a
emulate.
bad job.
They did a bad job. B, they chose badly. C, I still hated it.
So the taller stepsister farts and she apologizes, saying, I have a spastic colon.
To which the short sister responds, "You have a spastic brain," and tries to dunk her. That's the level of humor we get from these characters. There won't ever be a higher level of humor we get from these characters. Whatever your expectations are, lower them and then lower them again.
Fiona tells Sam to get to work. This is early in the morning, we later find out, which would have made the scene make a lot more sense. But she tells her to get to work. Sam says that she's got a really big test she wants to study for. And Fiona tells her that she doesn't need to because people go to school to get smarter so that they can get a job. She already has a job, so it's just like skipping a step. Sam then runs to the house through the sprinklers and yells that they're supposed to conserve water. And Fiona says that droughts are for poor people and people who use extra water have extra class. And we pan out of this scene, and all of the other lawns are brown. And Sam drives off in her white convertible car that she's embarrassed about.
We're meant to believe this is a junker. Yeah, so everyone else's yard is super brown, their yard is neon green. The drought will be one of the themes through this, which will come back in the stupidest possible way.
They do have a quote payoff for the drought, but I wish they hadn't. I wish they'd also left that one unfinished.
Yeah, I don't think payoff is the word that we want to use. We cut to the diner, which is now called Fiona. There's an Elvis guitar on the wall, which in one of the opening shots we had seen that Sam's father's stupid striking out fear playing the game quote was on that part of the wall. It has now been covered by an Elvis guitar.
And also pink wallpaper. Everything is aggressively pink.
It's a 1950s retro diner. Honestly, the diner looks amazing.
Yeah,
Everybody
it's cute.
wears pink, and Fiona insists that everybody wears roller skates like it's a Sonic or something. So
They've also got actual poodle skirts on.
they have to incorporate salmon into everything, including waffles. And we get a line much later, but sushi and donuts, which I posit that any place that makes waffles should not make sushi. We now meet Rhonda. Rhonda will be our fairy godmother. Rhonda is my favorite. She is a medium height. She is our only, no, one of the mean girls is a person of color too, right? Yeah.
I think so.
I think she's meant to be Indian, but this is our only black person. She is phenomenal. She runs the diner essentially. She's just the best. We get a great line from her. She's on the phone with somebody and she goes, "Grade A beef? Well, that cow must have cheated on its test." Just she knows everybody's order, and she sees Sam, and Rhonda is furious and says, "What are you doing here? You have a test. Your dad wouldn't want you to do this. You have to go to Princeton. You need to school. La 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 la. I will take care of Fiona. Go to school." We're done with that scene now.
Yes. Sam pulls up in front of a house with a guy in the driveway and he's washing or shining his car. He tells us that it's a Mercedes and that a Mercedes is a man's best friend. And then her best friend Carter walks out of the house and he's dressed in like an aggressively 2000s like pseudo hip hop style. He is the whitest child you will ever see. And he's wearing like a flat cap and like a jogging suit, and everything is bright red, and he's got all these gold chains on. He goes "ite" at his dad and complains about the car that he has to drive to school in, which is to say Sam's car. And his dad mentions that he can complain all he wants because he's totaled 3 cars already. Carter then describes his look as his Snoop Sizzle look. And Sam says that she cannot drive him to school like that.
Proving that Sam is an excellent friend.
Yes. It turns out that Carter is a method actor and that he is, quote, in character. He says take 2 and then runs back to his house to wear different clothes. And then we see the school.
I will say that the friendship between Carter and Sam is genuinely one of my favorite friendships.
Oh, 100%.
This movie has, for being absolute garbage, has a couple of moments of just, wow, you did a thing aggressively right. What happened to the rest of it? Carter is her best friend. He will be supportive of her. He will be honest with her. He is in no way romantically interested in her. He offers her physical affection, hugs when she's mad or sad. He challenges her to be her best self, and she also challenges him in the same way. It is the best representation of male-female friendship that I'm going to go with ever seen.
It is incredibly wholesome. It is incredibly wholesome. And when you ask me later on in this episode what my highs and lows are, this is my high, 100%.
Yeah, you're going to steal my high again. That's fine.
I'm
Um,
sorry.
we see the school now, and we hear the announcements being read. This is where we meet Goth Girl. I love Goth Girl. She does not get a name, hence why I'm calling her Goth Girl.
I called her
She
purple hair girl.
can you describe her, because I have no idea how to describe what she's wearing or how her hair is done, but it's
Um,
excellent.
so she's got like streaky purple and blonde hair. She's wearing a lot of eyeliner. She does like the choker thing. When we see her, and we see her a couple of times, she's wearing different outfits, but they're all like gothy outfits with like different layers, black and netted and stuff like that.
Multiple piercings on her ears and stuff.
I think she had her nose pierced, which for
2000
2004 was kind of impressive
was
for a high
edgy, yeah.
schooler.
And her tone of voice reading these announcements is my everything. She's so sick of high school. She sees through it. I love her.
I don't know who let this girl read the announcements, but I love it. So she's talking about the big Halloween dance coming up, and she goes, whoop de doo. And she starts snarking about how dumb this whole thing is. And then the teacher comes up behind her and manhandles her hand over her heart and makes her start the Pledge of Allegiance. And they do the Pledge of Allegiance together.
All the time, Goth Girl is smiling as though her teeth hurt. In universe, I have no idea why she's allowed to do the announcements. In our universe, I'm so happy that she does the announcements.
It's a really cute role that gives us a nice through line that isn't annoying, because
It,
we see her do the morning announcements fairly often, and she's also the DJ at the dance.
it is a reasonably good way to get exposition dumps in, because
Yes.
that is literally what morning announcements are for. The way that the morning announcements work in universe is bonkers, but it is a viable exposition dump. I think they use it too heavily, but it could be so much dumber.
I was just happy whenever she was on screen.
Yeah.
And in this movie, that meant that something else wasn't happening and they didn't have
Yes.
to watch the rest of the movie. So,
Agreed. Agreed. I think that's a pretty good summation. So I'm going to skip the next scene. It's Sam arriving to school. This is where we meet our main cast of characters. We meet Shelby, who is the main popular girl, and her two sensationettes. We meet the jock dudes, and we see our prince for the first time. His name is Austin Ames. He's got two equally douchey bro friends, and Sam thinks that they don't even know about her, but it turns out they do, and they start making fun of her for being a loser and call her Diner Girl, another through line that I hate. And so that is our cast. That's who we will be working with for the rest of this film.
the especially heinous, gross friend of Austin's, whose name is David, yells, "Hey, Diner Girl, can I get a breakfast burrito to go?" And at that moment, I singled him out as the worst one. And that proved to be true throughout the
He
whole movie. All of the bad things are done by David.
all of the bad things are done by David. So Sam and Carter go to school now, and now we meet Terry. Terry is a super nerd. He is every portrayal of what people think a nerd is. He's got a massive backpack walkie-talkie, and he's communicating with Space Force. It is insane. He's grossly and aggressively into Sam, who is oblivious somehow.
He says, "Greetings, Samantha. You look absolutely stunning today, as always." And then he says, "I must get back to my galaxy."
Yeah, so that's his character. He's slimy. That's all we need to know about him.
I don't think he's slimy. I think he's awkward.
Oh, I think he's aggressive. He is also awkward, but he is slimy.
I didn't
He's
get a slimy vibe.
he only comments on her looks. He never actually tries to talk to her about any of her interests. I find him very slimy. I don't like him as a character. I don't read that as merely awkward. Carter is merely awkward. Terry's
Carter's
gross.
slimy.
Carter's just awkward. I disagree.
Carter announces about Shelby the cheerleader in the scene that we skipped that she wants me so bad.
So Shelby, played by Julie Gonzalo, is our main mean girl. Carter has a huge crush on her. She was also the main mean girl in Freaky Friday. Again, I think we should have watched Freaky Friday instead of this. And then we get Sam's phone buzzing.
I hate Sam's phone.
I hate Sam's phone. I hate everything that happens involving Sam's phone. We find out that she has a secret admirer.
She has
And
a romantic pen pal.
a romantic pen pal is a good way to describe this. So, this is a flip phone where if you want to type C, you got to press 1 3 times. So, texting on flip phones was an effort. We put in effort back in the day, y'all. So she's having this romantic conversation. I want to emphasize that romantic is in heavy scare quotes.
Romantic if you're a teenager and you're very into being into someone. Most of what they talk about is how much they've been talking. So they're like, oh, we haven't talked in ages. We talked this morning. What's on your mind right now? No, you first.
I'm thinking about you. I'll laugh. Oh, I'd love to hear your laugh. It's gross. So here's the thing. We're watching this and it is played as innocent and cute. Meanwhile, Sam is looking around the field because she's sitting on a bench trying to see who else is on a phone. Does she maybe continue to figure out who this person is? Because she doesn't know who they are. They've never met.
They met in a Princeton chat room and they go to the same school. They both know that about each other. And that's it.
Yeah. So this scene ends and Austin is the person that she's been texting with. And he's sitting around the other side of the bench from her.
Okay, right before the scene ends, they talk about how there's 3,500 kids in their school, and Austin's like, that's still a lot of people. Even if you eliminate the guys, you're not a guy, right? Because I'll kick your butt. And like he laughs like it's supposed to be charming, but it was like cool.
It's not cool. Why are you doing this? So they talk about, oh, you could be anyone. Do you even go to our school? And then they continue to chat on some sort of computer instant messaging thing. It looks like AOL Instant Messenger. It's the same chat room thing. And just, oh my God, it's 2 a.m. We've been at this for 5 hours. I think we broke our record. It's gross. It's gross because this is how people sext. And this is how sexting starts when it's done really badly. And I hate it. And they make multiple references to the fact that they do not know each other, that they have never met. He could be anybody. She could be anybody. This is unsafe. It is unpleasant. I hate it. And it's gross. We're watching it on the screen and we're seeing that both of these people are who they say they are, that neither of them has ill intent. So this is safe. And they're two teenagers who are into each other. So whatever, I guess it's cute, but it's not cute because we're not watching this in a vacuum. And so every time they text or email is just the worst.
I didn't feel that way about it because at that same age, I was having a lot of conversations with people on the internet that I didn't really know in person. I had a really good friend that I made by writing fan fiction, and she commented on one of my stories telling me that I was updating too often and that I wasn't going to get the optimal amount of reviews that way. And then we started emailing, and then we talked for years.
I didn't have a cell phone until I was 19 or something.
I don't think this is great, but I do think it's fine.
Yeah, I don't think this is fine. I really hate this.
The salient points are that Austin hasn't told his dad about Princeton yet. He hasn't told his dad that he wants to be a writer. His dad has a whole other plan for his life. And he's really spilling his soul to her.
Yes.
This is what his like torment is.
Yep.
Ugh.
He also quotes her Tennyson, which she immediately recognizes. Did you get the line?
I wrote it down. I can't sleep without knowing there's hope. Half the night I waste in sighs. In wakeful doze I sorrow for the hands, for the lips, the eyes, for the meeting of tomorrow.
One, there is no way that she would immediately recognize that as Tennyson. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I had to Google that.
Yeah, no, and
And I have an English degree.
thank you. Thank you. I don't have an English degree, but I am really into old writers and stuff, and I would not recognize that as Tennyson.
So he asked her to meet him at the dance at 11 in the middle of the dance floor. And she doesn't say yes, but she doesn't say no. And they say sweet dreams to each other.
So the next scene is just Sam playing baseball by herself with one of those throwy machines. Another through line, doesn't go anywhere, with Carter, and he's urging her to try to meet this guy and to go to the dance, and she's worried that she's not going to live up to this text dude's expectations. And Fiona calls her and tells her to do something, and she has one last ball and it has Fiona's face, and she hits it, and she hits it out of the field, and it goes and it lands at Austin's feet. And he picks it up and throws it back to her, and she yells thanks, and he yells back you're welcome, and his dude friend goes wow, a girl hit that, and Austin goes wow, that's impressive, and we're done with that scene. That scene could have gone somewhere. That scene could have been a meet cute. That scene could have had any sort of relevance. Austin could be a baseball player instead of a football player, and they could have something to bond over.
Nope, that would make
No,
too much sense.
we don't choose to do that.
So the scene also gives us two more pieces of information. One, Sam lives with Fiona and does everything she says because without Fiona, there's no money for Princeton.
Right.
And Austin tells his friends that he doesn't think he's going to the dance with Shelby because he doesn't know if they're going to be together anymore. Austin's father owns Big Andy's car wash, and he very conspicuously puts out signs that say like however much percent off if you're the graduate of what's the school that he wants Austin to go to? USC. Yeah. So he really wants Austin to go to USC and play football there. And he is just very insistent. So he comes up to Austin, who's working at the car wash, as we've said. And he goes, what's with all those college brochures in your bedroom? And Austin's like, what are you doing in my room? And he's treating it like he found drugs in his room and is basically like,
yeah, or like gay porn or something.
And he re-outlines the plan, which they've had since Austin was 9 years old. USC football, graduate, manage this business with dad, which sounds like hell to me, frankly. So Sam drives up because one of her chores was to wax the Jag, and he tells her, you need a wax, and she goes, excuse me? And he goes, I meant the car, and she says, oh, okay.
That's our meet cute, y'all.
That's our romantic banter. And then the stepsisters pull up and they're matching VW bugs that are different colors, and they're just covered in dirt, and they've done this specifically so that they can see Austin because he's gonna wash their cars for them.
They tell Sam that she needs to hurry home because Fiona's asking for her, and Sam asks what she's doing, and we get the line, where's your mom? She's at home baking. And then we cut to Fiona in a tanning bed, and it's one of the funnier lines. She is tanning naked so that she doesn't have tan lines. Sam is not pleased about this. And we find out that Fiona wants Sam to work the night shift, and this is the night of the homecoming Halloween party, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't figure out what to call it. I wanted to call it the ball, and I was like, wait, it's not a ball. It's a prom, Halloween, promoween?
It's a dance.
Holoprom. and Sam is saying, look, this is supposed to be my night off. I want to go to the dance. I never get to do anything. I haven't asked you for anything. And she says, I'm a straight A student. I work 7 days a week, and I'm taking extra AP classes. Okay, let's break that down. That's so much.
That's intense.
That's intense. I know there was a summer one time where you worked something like 80-hour weeks. I had a period of a couple months where I worked 2 jobs, so I worked doubles half the week and did not have a day off for 3 months. And long story short, I had a serious mental breakdown at the end of that, and it took me, I don't know, like 6 months to turn into a human again, because that is just too much to do.
Her schedule is incredibly punishing, and that's horrific. And I did have a very similar schedule between my extracurriculars and stuff like that. And it wasn't good, and this is worse.
Yeah, so in terms of Cinderella having a bad time and Cinderella punishment, this might be the worst
Mhm.
because that's literally torture. She doesn't have enough time to sleep. That's sleep deprivation. I really did not like that. I mean they leaned into it hard, which
Mhm.
made it realistic, but I didn't like it. But also how if she has 7 days a week of work and all those classes and all that homework, how is she chatting to some rando on the internet for 5 hours?
I have no idea. So this talk ends with Fiona telling Sam that there's something that she's always wanted to say to her, and she thinks that Sam's finally old enough to hear it. And what she says is, "You're not very pretty and you're not very bright. I'm so glad we had this talk." And she
Yep,
walks away.
yep. So that's Fiona. She is intense and she leans so hard into her character, and I absolutely love it.
So Sam's at the diner, and there's a group of terrible school teens at a table. They're the terrible teens that yelled at her earlier. Fiona says that she'll be back by 12 o'clock sharp. She's going to pick up the girls from the party, from the dance. She's also taking money out of the drawer, and she gets into a fight with Rhonda. She calls her little Betty Crocker from the hood and
Ooh,
tells her
did like
that
that.
she should be cleaning toilets. And Rhonda says, "I'm too busy running this place. Why don't you do it?" And Fiona backs down and says that she has a $150 manicure. Rhonda says,
Keep it up and I'll introduce you to my $6 pedicure.
"That's so funny."
It is so funny. Fiona sort of threatens to fire Rhonda, to which Rhonda basically responds, "I dare you. I run this place. Everybody else would walk out with me and you'd lose all your regulars."
So Fiona immediately backs down and says, "I am a very appealing person," and kind of awkwardly chews on her finger and walks away. Rhonda and Sam mock her by going, "I'm a very appealing person."
It's
And we
great.
find out that Sam's graduating a year early to get away from her. One of the servers asks Sam to cover the table of terrible teens, and we start to overhear some of their conversations. One of the mean girls says, "I already ate," because there's nothing on there that's in her diet. A boy mocks her, saying laxatives don't qualify as a food group.
That's I we can't break down every toxic, horrible thing that gets said in this movie, but that's an eating disorder joke, and I hated it.
Yeah,
Okay, just want to be very clear.
100%. Yeah.
That's an eating disorder joke, and it should not have been included.
You know who said that? David said
Was
that.
it David, the horrible
It was
one? Yep,
David, the worst boy, the
the worst.
worst of the terrible boys. So Sam
So,
walks up to
oh
the
yeah, no.
table and asks to take their order. They go, "Oh, it's Diner Girl." And the head cheerleader, Shelby, goes, "What do you have here that has no sugar, no carbs, and is fat free?" And Sam goes, "Water."
I love it. It's my favorite.
And everyone at the table kind of giggles. And Shelby's annoyed and she goes, "Well, I want Voss from Norway." And she says, "We have water from the valley." They order two iced teas, which they never drink. And then David goes, "Still waiting on that breakfast burrito, Diner Girl," which is so annoying.
And so stupid. Why is there a Norway theme in this? Do you think Norway was a sponsor? Do you think Norway sponsored this film in some way?
I think that would be an act of war
I
and it
think
would violate the Geneva Convention.
that's fair. So Austin is sitting next to Shelby and asks her if they can go somewhere to talk privately. She responds with, "Anything you want to say to me, you can say in front of my peeps." And he goes, "Okay, I think we should break up." Seriously, dude, that's a terrible thing to do in front of your friends and her friends. The line there is, "No, we need to go talk. Please come outside with me to the parking lot."
You
That,
also don't have to do this like while you're in the diner with all of your friends.
no, that is not an ideal plan. Undoubtedly, you'll be seeing her later. You're dating. So she declines this breakup, saying that she is willing to overlook his temporary mental breakdown. And all of the terrible teens storm out right as Sam walks up holding their iced tea.
Austin offers to pay her, but she goes, "Don't worry about it." And Rhonda looks at them leave and goes, "Reminds me of why I used to fight in school."
I love Rhonda. We get thematic music, and Carter walks in dressed as Zorro. Very nicely, I might add. It's a good Zorro costume.
It's pretty solid.
And he has the key to his dad's Mercedes, and he's going to drive Sam to the Halloween prom.
Only half
Sam,
of that was right, but okay.
whatever. So she says she's not going. Carter tells at this point the rest of the staff that she's been getting love notes, which we get. They're not love notes, they're emails. And everyone basically teams up to say, you should go to the ball. And she has a moment of, yeah, I'm gonna. I deserve this. I'm gonna. And they all clap, and she goes, I'm not going. I don't have a costume. So Rhonda rushes in to save the day and runs Sam and Carter to the costume place just as it closes. She bribes the guy to open up with free breakfast for a month. And then we get the costume montage.
So really quick, while Rhonda's cheering Sam on and saying that you need to stop obeying orders, you gotta take care of yourself and, have fun once in a while, Carter keeps interjecting with "go ahead, girlfriend" in a really upsetting accent. And the scene ends with Rhonda saying, "Call me girlfriend one more time." It is both bizarrely racist to include it, but also I love Rhonda saying "call me girlfriend" one more time. I just really wanted to see Rhonda punch someone.
Yeah. We're going to spend a big part of the after party talking about the movies that should have existed around these characters. So if you'd like that, support us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month and listen to us babble about better movies that should exist but don't.
There's a costume montage. None of the costumes are reasonable at all for a costume party that is a dance.
Nope.
She tries on a matador costume, which I actually kind of liked. And after every costume, there's like a rejoinder. So she tries on the matador costume and they say, "Ole, no way."
Was
And
there a big duck before the Toreador?
oh, maybe.
There was. So the first costume is a big duck. Just to set the tone for this costume montage where she's going to go to a ball for the express purpose of meeting a love interest, a giant duck. Not a giant duck costume that shows her face or anything. It's a mascot. It's a full on. Okay.
So I love costume montages. I love it. I think every movie should have one. Stick it in. Doesn't even matter if it adds to the plot. I'm going to be a fan. But this one just doesn't work. It's just not fun enough. And they're on a time crunch. And I keep thinking about how, like, both Rhonda and Sam are scheduled to be at the diner and they both left. That can't be going well for all their coworkers right now. I know that's a dumb thing to be worried about, but I keep thinking about like how little time they have and they're spending it on this. So she wears like a Porky Pig outfit, which
There's a
also looks like a mascot, like a Dead Bride outfit, a hula girl outfit, and then she dresses like a nun, and then she sneezes and everyone says "bless you," and then she puts on a full-on night outfit, which had to have taken a really long time to put on.
because it's metal, it's not fabric. It clanks as the visor falls down over her face. There was a reason knights had squires, by the way, people, and it was to help them put on armor because you literally can't get into it on your own, and it would take a long freaking time. So I would like a scene where someone helps her put on an entire full suit of armor.
I mean, she could have gone like with a very Joan of Arc look. That would have been very cool, actually. But
Nope.
the
That's
knight's
loud.
outfit wasn't well fitted to her. It was clearly oversized, so she didn't look good in it. She
Yeah.
just looked clunky. So Sam tells Rhonda that this is hopeless, and as Rhonda looks down, she sees on the counter a lace white mask, and she realizes that she has an outfit that goes with that, even though the store doesn't. So they go to Rhonda's house, and Sam picks up a necklace made out of a bottle cap and tells Rhonda that she has a real talent for taking something simple and making it beautiful. And Rhonda says, "You ain't seen nothing yet." And then she brings out a box with clearly a wedding dress in it and says that she was saving this dress for her next attempt down the aisle. and that it's been in a box so long that it deserves a night out. So Sam agrees to wear it.
No, no, that's not how wedding dresses work.
Are you mad about this?
I'm so mad about this. Okay, okay. So my mom makes costumes professionally. She's restored historic costumes. That's what her degree is what she does. Dresses are made to fit you specifically. The concept of a ready to go dress is an extremely modern thing because if you actually look at the human body, everyone is so different. There's the concept of having a short waist or a long waist. It's not the same front to back. There's where your breasts are set on your chest, which is not the same for everybody. There's where your hips are located, as body types are so different. We live in an age where, yeah, it's a t-shirt, it fits because the fabric is kind of stretchy and it's cut like a square. Wedding dresses are one of the few things that are still tailored to fit an individual person, which means they fit that individual person. They don't just fit other random people who were kind of similar in size. I guess that's not how tailoring works. That's not how fitted clothes work. I hate it. I'm so mad about it.
How do you feel about it on like a conceptual level? Because I feel really weird about Rhonda giving Sam a wedding dress, like
Oh,
her wedding dress for this. Like emotionally, that feels really wrong to me.
I hate it on a conceptual level as well, but I hate it so much more on a physical level that it just completely dwarfs my hatred of the concept itself. So we get a full dress reveal, a scene and a half later when she arrives at the ball. It has a big tulle skirt, so it's really poofy and fluffy. It has an extremely bizarre corset bodice that's just what look like rhinestones vertically. So it's got a vertical rhinestone kind of ribbing corset thing and then a beaded overlay over the boob parts that sort of imitates a sweetheart neckline, but it's not because it doesn't have straps. So it's weird. It's not that it's ugly, but it's dumb. If you're gonna have a corseted look, have a corseted look. I don't know why there were rhinestones on everything. If you're gonna have rhinestones, don't try to make a corset out of them. They're rhinestones. Just throw them everywhere and say, "I'm having a super sparkly dress. Deal with it." Why is it a corset? I probably would have been fine if there had not been that rhinestone corset thing.
I really hated that line that separated the part over her boobs with the corset bit. It was like in a weird place and it didn't look good.
No, it draws weird attention to the boobs. Not good, and it was a sort of small beaded fringe type thing. I'm not opposed to beaded fringe, but you got to put it in the right place. And let me tell you, over the nipples is not the right spot, guys. Just that's not where it's supposed to go.
So we're at the dance and the purple haired goth girl is the DJ, and so she has control of the mic, and she's saying that that the teachers are gonna use their wisdom to choose the prince and princess of the ball, and that in true LA fashion, it's not about who you are, it's about what you wear. The two stepsisters walk down the stairs. For whatever reason, they had put the tall, dumb one in charge of costumes, and she's picked conjoined twins that are also Siamese cats.
Yeah, they were supposed to just be Siamese cats, but again, the dum dum is dum dum. They fall down the stairs and knock over two people dressed as salt and pepper shakers. Why? Because this movie hates me. That's why.
The pepper shaker sneezes afterwards.
Because that's what we have instead of humor.
Austin is there. He's dressed like Prince Charming. His two friends are dressed like the Three Musketeers. Austin is not a team player and did not come dressed up with them. And they're
Nope.
both mad about it because now they look stupid. Carter and Sam are sneaking into the dance. Sam is wearing Carter's cape and is freaking out. She reminds him that she absolutely has to be at the diner at midnight, and he sets her phone alarm to 11:45.
Where does he put her phone, Talon?
Her phone was already attached to her shoe because she doesn't have pockets, and he reattaches it to her shoe for her. So then we
Right.
see Shelby and her mean girls, and they're dressed as like angels, but like Charlie's angels, with their hair all feathered, and they're wearing like pleather outfits,
They,
and it's a whole thing.
they're dressed as sexy angels.
Yeah.
Mini skirts and crop tops.
So Carter notices that everyone is turning to look somewhere behind him, and he turns to look at Sam and goes, Sam, what is everyone looking at? And it turns out that Sam is like spotlit at the top of the stairs, and her dress is beautifully glinting, and she's put the mask on, and her hair is done up in this like half up, half down curled hairstyle.
It's cute.
It is very, very dramatic. She's also wearing very 2004 lip gloss. The mean girl says, love her dress, hate her.
So Sam moves to the middle of the floor, and Carter gives her a pep talk, basically. And he leaves, and she's just standing under a disco ball looking increasingly awkward. From behind her, we hear someone say, "Do you know you're standing directly in the center of the floor?" And she turns, and it's Terry, who's gross and creepy. She asks if he's Nomad. Nomad is the screen name of uh, the dude she's been chatting with. And he goes, "Yes."
He said, Nomad, yes, indeed, I have traveled eons to find you. I mean, it is a word.
It is a word. But then he goes, "Fate has brought us together. Let us do the mating dance of Zion," and just throws his cape back and proceeds to flop on the floor and then do a bird of paradise mating dance around her.
He's just like Neo from the Matrix, is what's happening. And he's swishing his cape around. Not his cape, but his long leather trench coat.
Yeah, seriously though, just go Google bird of paradise mating dance. It's this, but all black. Sam basically goes, "I knew this was too good to be true," and turns to leave. But Austin has come up behind her, and she is shocked that it's him and goes, "This is a mistake. I'm going to go." And
She says, Austin Ames, you're Nomad. And he goes, I guess my costume doesn't do a good job of hiding who I am. And she goes, I know exactly who you are.
yep. But she does say, "This is a mistake. I'm going to go," and tries to leave. And he catches up with her, and she goes, "Don't you know who I am?" She's wearing a mask, by the way, guys. Her the top of her face is covered by a mask. And he goes, "Yes, you're Princeton girl. You're the girl of my dreams." Something nonsensy like that.
Mm-hmm.
She had sent Terry off to go get her a drink just to make him leave. So he shows up, and they do a weird dick measuring thing.
It's really bizarre because Austin calls him Mr. Anderson, which is like calling him in character. Like, that's not this dude's actual last name, that's the character's name.
Yeah.
And they weirdly like sync up. And
It's
he goes, a devastating blow, but a worthy opponent. And he bows and walks away.
Sam asks Austin, "What's up with your girlfriend?" And he says, "We broke up." And Sam says, "You're the football captain and the student council president and a closet poet. You can't be both. One, that's three things, madam. Two, I hate you." He
He quotes back a line to her that he had already said to her because she asks him, who are you? And he
along
says,
along with the date, he goes, "On August 7th, I wrote."
I live in a world full of people pretending to be something they're not, but when I talk to you, I'm the guy I want to be. And this reminds her that she does, sort of know him in a different way. And she agrees to go outside with him. And Carter sees them from across the room and smiles.
It's so cute. He's keeping an eye on her, but he's also really happy about her, but he's not being overly protective. He's just enjoying her successes and being supportive, and I love Carter. He is fantastic.
It was great. And a teacher also notices them and kind of smiles and writes it down on her clipboard.
Austin now decides that he's going to try to figure out who she is with 10 questions. The questions are: do you actually go to the school with the real line, "You never know with the internet"? Precisely. That's why this wasn't safe. Do you actually go to the school? Yes. Were you disappointed when you found out who I was? No. Did you vote for me for student body president? Yes. Rice cake or Big Mac? Big Mac. I like a girl with a hearty appetite. I hate you. I hate you. And then he says the first line that makes me hate him more than all of the other lines. And he goes, "You'd think I'd remember those eyes." You would. You would think that. You would think you would remember them, I don't know, maybe later or from before. But
So I 100% buy that he's a terrible boy that like has never paid attention to her, has never noticed her, and now that she's all glammed up, he's like, "Wow, you're beautiful." I 100% buy that, and this is one of the parts of the movie that actually works for me. It's the typical like you're completely invisible in high school thing and just no one knows you. And I think that's a really good beat that they went for.
It is, and it works now. It works in this scene. I would say that it fails dramatically later.
I also like that he doesn't recognize her later. I think that should be the plot of the movie.
I hated that. So we cut back to the party. Austin's terrible friend David starts to hit on Shelby and then rapidly proceeds to just assaulting Shelby. And Carter jumps in and unsheathes his sword and attempts to rescue her. David takes the sword and breaks it, and there's a chase scene. I'm not going into the antics. I don't care. The point is that Carter escapes and Shelby is impressed.
The most important line there is that Carter starred in Pirates of Penzance 3 years ago, and then say hello to Act Two, Scene One, and he lifts up a bar on the table and hits David on the head, and then Shelby whispers something in his ear because she's impressed and happy and like is now into him.
Yeah, Act 2, Scene 1 of Pirates of Penzance is a group of women singing.
You think they could have just looked that up? That wouldn't be that hard.
You'd think. But no, there are some good fight scenes in Pirates of Penzance, or rather some good choreographed dance numbers. But Act 2, Scene 1 is not one of those.
So Sam and Austin are walking around outside and everything is beautifully lit up. And there's this gazebo with sparkling lights. And he asks, does it count as a question if he asks her to dance? And there's no music, but he says they should dance anyway. And then musicians start playing. But instead of listening to that, it's more like dude rock. And Austin goes to take her mask off, but she pulls back and he bows to her instead, which I thought was very cute.
Oh, see,
And they go back to dancing.
I thought he went in for a kiss then, because he tips her chin up.
Oh, I thought he was going to take off her mask. Oh, I like it less if he's going for a kiss.
He might have been trying to take her mask off. I read that as a kiss, and she pulls away. But then I like that. So I read that as he goes in for a kiss, she declines, and he backs up and bows and offers his hand, and they start to dance. Not very closely. They start to dance at a reasonable distance from one another, and I did like him for that. Would you like a kiss? I would not. Okay.
So next he asks her if she believes in love at first sight, and she looks a little sardonic, and she says, "I'll let you know." And he says, "But I've seen you before." And she said, "Yes." And he says, "How could I have seen you before and not know it?" And she says, "Maybe you were looking, but you weren't really seeing." And he's got one question left, and it's, "Do you, Princeton girl, feel like you made the right choice meeting me here tonight?" And she says, "I do." And asks him, "Do you, Austin Ames, want to see me after tonight?" And he goes, "Well, I have to think about that." And he scrunches up his face and then he goes, "Absolutely." And I hate that moment because that's her biggest insecurity. And she's like shared that with him, that she's worried that if they meet in person, he'll be disappointed and he won't want to talk to her anymore.
Okay, but he says it so playfully, and they're in a romantic gazebo, and they're dancing. And she does pull back and is a little bit confused, but I didn't read that as her being super vulnerable in that moment or by that response, because it's clearly done humorously, and he only waits a very short beat before saying absolutely, which he says in a very heartfelt way. So that part did not bother me.
I didn't like it. So he goes to take off her mask again, or possibly for the first time, but her alarm on her phone beeps and she says, "I have to go. I'm sorry, but thank you. This has been the most amazing night and I'm late." And he asks for what? And she says, "Reality."
So she goes back into the dance. The teacher from before is announcing, my notes just say announcing prom. I guess they're announcing the prom king and queen, which is Prince Charming and Cinderella, because they've just decided that her character is Cinderella because she's in a white dress. Personally, I thought a really funny beat would have been if they had mentioned a different fairy tale, just the Swan Princess. That would have made me laugh if nobody else, and I would have appreciated it.
I think that would have been terrible, but I just think it's so funny that they had some of the most low effort costumes. They weren't very creative. They were
The
just a beautiful dress and like a prince outfit.
Yeah, the Three Musketeers outfit, as terrible as David is, those were really good costumes. They're wearing
Yeah.
full-on wigs and facial hair. It's a good costume. So Sam runs in to find Carter. Carter is just full-on Frenching Shelby. They're just making out hardcore, and she's trying to signal him, like, we have to go. Please, we have to go.
And at
And
first he waves her off, but then he goes, I must bid you adieu. I gotta go. And I
yeah,
thought that was so nice
right?
because I thought he was just gonna blow her off and that's why she would be running late because
Right?
he had his romantic moment and he couldn't be there for her. But he did both. He had his romantic moment and he was gonna be there for his best friend because he promised her he'd get her home on time. And he's gonna do it by driving at exactly the speed limit.
It's a really great moment with Carter, and we see that Shelby is just hard in her eyes, super into this character.
Okay, so the teacher says, "Oh, looks like Cinderella's playing hard to get because Sam is walking away." And I thought that was gross. And
Yep.
she drops her cell phone off her ankle, and Austin finds her cell phone on the floor, but she's not directly in front of him in the hall, and he doesn't look anywhere past that, even though she's just going at a semi-regular pace in the parking lot. They have another really cute scene with Carter and Sam
Mhm.
where she goes, I almost kissed Austin. And he goes, I totally kissed Shelby. And they're
It's
like both like excited for each
they're
other.
just gushing about what a good night they had, and it is so pure and so sweet and so delightful. But at this point, they start talking to one another, still very excitedly. And Carter asks, "Does he know who you are? Did you tell him?" And she says, "No, he's expecting Malibu Barbie, essentially. He wouldn't be happy. It's better to have this as a fantasy."
She
And
says
he
that I'll
says,
be doing him a favor if I just disappear.
yeah, it's sad that that is her thought process, but that is her thought process. And Carter argues with her, at which point she points out, "Well, does Shelby know who you are?" And no, Shelby does not know who he is. They see each other's insecurities, and it's just another cute moment of their friendship. So what happens now is that we have car shenanigans. Carter's driving slow. Fiona and the stepsisters pull up next to them at a light, and the point of this scene is that now they're rushing to get home because now the stepsisters have reason to believe that she is not at the diner. So we have essentially a really stupid car chase for no reason. So Fiona arrives at the diner. There is a funny scene in the beginning where she's mad at her daughters for not winning the crown, and
Winners get prizes.
she's smiling. And the daughter said, "Well, you don't look bad." And she goes, "Oh, it's Botox. I won't be able to have an emotion for another hour."
She's able to move her face after the excitement of the car chase.
Yeah. So Fiona and the girls who are still in their twosome cat onesie. Is it a twosie?
Ugh, I hate that.
Yeah. So they pull up screeching at the diner, and the tall dum dum goes, "I have to use the litter box. And I want to know who wrote that line. And I want to know where they are so that I can go find them and make them sorry."
I hated that line.
Fiona comes flouncing in, and the staff are 100% stalling, just covering for time because they don't think that Sam is back yet because she has not come through the front door.
So Rhonda's stall tactic is that she wants to get her breast done and she wants Fiona's advice. The other server's stall tactic is that look how shiny the floors are. And then the cook brings out a fish and he's like, oh, look, the smell is bad. And they're all like yelling, look, smell the fish. Oh, look at the floors. Oh, but boobs. And it's like a cacophony.
Yep. And she gets very suspicious and yells at everyone to shut up and says,
She goes, when I find her,
"I'm gonna."
and then it goes ding, orders up. And Sam is behind the grill and she's wearing her baseball cap. She's got her black t shirt on and she's got an apron over top and she's making pancakes. And the cook, who knows that she wasn't there a moment ago, goes, yes, I'm teaching her to make pancakes with salmon. And the stepmother, Fiona, thinks that something about here stinks and it's not the fish. but she gives up and leaves with the daughters. And then we pan back behind the grill and we can see that Sam just threw the t-shirt on over her dress and that she's still in the full ball gown and just covered in flour.
I thought that was kind of a cute scene of the like
I
stall
thought it was
tactic,
adorable.
orders up. It's a cute scene. And it's cute that she's back there in her gown, that she had enough quick wits to just throw on a t-shirt and apron. I don't like that it's a wedding dress. Yeah, if it had been a rented prom dress, that would have been so fine, but it's a wedding dress, which means that it's important to somebody and she's getting it all gross. So whatever, we're just going to ignore that. But that is kind of a cute scene. We get more car shenanigans, which don't
Yeah.
go anywhere.
And it ends with the sign for Fiona's Diner falling onto Carter's dad's Mercedes.
Because he's made it through this whole thing without scratching his dad's precious car. Massive sign falls, crushes the car, explodes in a shower of sparks, and he faints. But enough of that. We cut back to the school.
Purple-haired goth girl is doing the announcements again, and she's saying this is your daily drought reminder, only flush number 2. That's a fun morning announcement.
Missed that
Big
line.
shocker, Austin is our prince, but the bigger mystery is who Princess Cinderella is. And then we pan to Sam talking to Carter, saying, well, it's not like he's going to be pining for me. And then we see all of these giant yellow posters that say, have you seen Cinderella? Call Austin Ames.
Yep.
He talks to his terrible friends about how he has real feelings for her, that she listens to him. His terrible friends are terrible and don't get why he needs a girl to listen to him. He can't find her through the phone because it's locked. All he gets are incoming texts that are like, I need you and come see me and clean the fryer.
One of the lines that he tells his terrible friends are, she's real. And David, of course, goes, like she has her original nose? And Austin replies with, no, she cares less about what to wear and how much weight she wants to lose. Which, again, movie, please stop. There are other jokes.
It's such a not like other girls, cool girl who eats burgers thing.
That whole through line is just, it's so symptomatic of such a pervasive, toxic message that is forced onto all of our young people. It traps men as much as it does women with weird expectations and concepts, and it's unhealthy for everyone, and it is damaging for everyone, and we should burn the patriarchy to the ground right after we finish this podcast. So right, this is the part where I really start to hate Austin. Sam and Carter are sort of ribbing each other about, well, you haven't told Austin, well, you haven't told Shelby, and they make a deal basically, well, when you tell Shelby, I'll tell Austin. Austin says that he's looked through the whole yearbook, but he can't find her. And then he walks past Sam in the hallway, makes slow motion eye contact with her. She visually responds with hope, but also fear and cringing away from him. And he slow-mo just makes hard eye contact with her and then looks away.
And she walks into a locker.
I hate it. I hate it in my notes a whole lot. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I was actually fine with that. I could understand him not recognizing her.
There is an element to which I would believe that he does not recognize her because they spend a lot of time talking and he does not hear her voice, and she would obviously not be dressed like that in a yearbook photo. So there is still a chance for him to redeem himself in that he could hear her voice and then he would know who she is. But that doesn't happen either. So no, Austin gets no points. I hate him.
He lost a ton of points from me when all of his questions were about himself. Like, he wasn't trying to figure out her identity. He was just like, did you vote for me for president?
How is that gonna narrow down? Because he's trying to narrow down the pool of people. He's trying to do a bubble sort, essentially, of women folk. And I don't know how. I mean, he does say that, okay, the burger thing would knock out at least half the girls in our school, which A, if it only knocks out half, why do you have that stereotype? And B, okay, fine, But then how would the voting for president, you don't even have that. It's okay, moving on. So the stepsisters are doing dumb pool stuff. They are at a different pool now doing their synchronized swimming routine nonsense. And Shelby is with her mean girls and she's gushing about this mystery man. He was wild but tame. He was strong but gentle. Just things that don't go together. And she's just gushing. And her girls are finally just finished with her. Just stop talking about it. Carter decides that he is going to tell Shelby that it was him. And he
Right
walks up
now.
to right now in front of her friends, the way that popular girls love to be confronted about things. And he walks up with the opening line of, Shelby, baby, what's up? Which, bold opening, sir. That is a bold opener.
I 100% believe that he is just a theater nerd and was writing a cool guy character
Yep.
and has no idea how to be authentically himself. And I buy that line 1,000,000,000%. I
Yep.
completely believe that he would say that to her.
100%. I also got the vibe that he thinks that she does know who he is, that she's guessed his identity. She's not, because she responds with, "Who are you?" And he says, "Allow me to refresh your memory," and takes her hand and kisses her hand in what is admittedly a very gross and slimy fashion. And she freaks out. Just, who is this? Why is he touching me? And her girls say, "That's Carter. You cheat off him in algebra too." And
She responds with, "The freak who hums show tunes?"
she pulls Carter off to the side and makes a whole bunch of excuses about why they kissed last night, namely that she had a bad cold and had taken a bunch of some sort of cold medicine. And finally just breaks down and says, "We are from completely different classes of human," and leaves.
She also says, "Let's continue to only mingle when I copy off of you in algebra 2."
Yeah, just classic Mean Girl stuff. At this point, the stepsisters are both on top of the high diving board and they ungracefully push fall one another into the pool, and Carter gets soaked because how else do you express that someone has had their hopes dashed other than by dashing them with a big puddle of water?
Sam has been watching the whole time and he storms past her saying, if she thinks she's still cheating off me, she's crazy. And that's the end of that scene.
Yep.
So in the next scene, the terrible friends have cornered Austin in the like quad of the school.
Yep.
And I've told him that they have tried to find his Cinderella for him. And what they did is they walked around and they asked every girl if she was your Cinderella. And then they gathered all the ones that said yes into a line. And now they're doing like a bachelorette style game show for him where they announce them one by one and describe their likes and dislikes. Bachelorette number 2, by the way, likes barbells, World War II, and protein shakes. And he thanks all of the women for coming.
I would like to say that as soon as he sees the line of women, he does instantly try to flee.
Yes.
And his friends grab him and force him to be there. So I gave him a point back.
Yes. I both believe that his terrible high school friends would do that and that's why that scene exists. And I also like that he was not into it.
Yes.
But
So
he basically tells all of them, you're beautiful, but I'm not your prince. You'll meet him one day. And starts to walk away. Then the teacher runs out yelling at David because he's got a megaphone and he's still announcing the girls, telling him, David, you stop right now. You are a bad boy. And that is a terrible shirt. And then she says, hi, Ryan, to the other boy.
in a very flirty way.
And I have in all caps, the teacher, question mark, question mark, question mark.
Yep. I got the sense that David was her son.
Oh, no, I didn't get that at all.
That was the only thing that made any sense to me. Why else would you tell a student that they were a bad boy and that was a terrible shirt?
Because she's kind of older and that's how she's speaking to them. I don't think it's right.
I got this.
It was a terrible shirt. It was like a terrible brown, orange, yellow combo.
I've had my mom as a teacher before, and it's a little strange. So I got the sense that she was his mother. But
I mean,
it's
she
even
could be, but they didn't signal that to us in any way.
it's even weirder if she's not, though. Just let me have this one thing, okay?
Okay, that's his mom.
Thank you. So we cut to Fiona going through the mail back at the home, and there's a letter from Princeton, and it's Sam's acceptance letter. And Fiona says out loud to herself, "Oh, this won't do." And right at that moment, Sam comes in and says, "Is there anything for me?" And Fiona grabs another letter and goes, "Yes, there's something from somebody whose name I didn't catch. You just
Ed
won
McMahon.
$1 million. Who is it? Ed
Ed
McMahon?
McMahon.
Yeah. Says, "Don't spend it all in one place," and sort of laughs at her, and Sam dejectedly walks away.
I have in my notes, ugh.
Yep. So Sam goes up to her room and is messaging again. He sent her 3 messages of, "Who are you? I have to know. Tell me who you are," which, no, thank you. That is not how we behave on the internet. No, thank you.
And she starts to write, "My name is," but then she's interrupted by her stepsister yelling, "Sam."
Yep.
And she never finishes.
And this is the dum dum coming in, basically saying, "Why aren't you done writing my essay? It's really stressful for me to wait for it." And Sam goes, "Imagine how much more stressful it would be if you had to write it." And the dum dum sort of thinks about this for a while and goes, "That would be so much worse." And also asks if Sam can make it sound more like me. I get tired of explaining why I sound so smart on paper and so not smart out loud. But she's interrupted again because Fiona's now screaming for her. She closes her chat window and goes downstairs. The Dum Dum sister goes over to her computer and opens up her chat window and starts reading aloud. And there is a line that Austin has written to her where he says, "Did you freak out when you found out that I'm Austin Ames and that you're my Cinder?" It was some stupid exposition line, but she reads this out loud. And the other stepsister is in the doorway and overhears this. And we get the sense that there are going to be terrible antics soon.
Ugh, antics. Next, we see that Austin also got a Princeton acceptance letter, and his dad walks in right as he's looking for at it, and Austin shoves it away, and his dad is like, "Let me guess, you're thinking, is USC really the right choice for me?" And as Austin's about to say, "Actually, yeah, that is what I'm thinking," his dad's like, "Don't worry about it. You're making the right choice." At this point, the 2 stepsisters drive up in their cars and they're both practicing being Cinderella, and they're just reciting his line over and over. "I live in this world full of people pretending to be something they're not." And they show up at the same time and they both try to tell him that they're Cinderella, and they get into a fight about it. And Austin doesn't believe either of them and says, "Okay, Cinderella dropped something on her way out. What was it?" And the shorter, smarter sister goes, "That's easy, a wallet." And he's like, "No." And she's like, "I mean a wallet purse." And he's like, "Also no."
No.
And then the taller, dumber one says, "A fish."
A fish.
And Austin just walks away, and
A
they have an
fish.
argument about how dumb that was, and how, the oldest is older by 1 minute and 26 seconds and never lets the other one live it down. And the whole thing results in them having a fight that goes into the car wash on top of a car. They end up getting waxed and have very silly hair.
Yes. I never want to talk about that scene or think about it ever again in my life. So we're done now. We cut back to the diner. It's just a quiet night at the diner. Austin comes in and sits down, and Sam is behind the counter, and she starts to freak out very quietly and sort of motions to Rhonda and sort of mouths, "It's him. It's him. What do I do?" And Rhonda silently encourages her, go serve him, go talk to him. And Rhonda sort of leans over and checks out his butt, which was a weird moment.
She also mouths, "He's cute,"
Yeah.
which is really funny. I like that she's evaluating him.
So Sam greets him and he's all frowny. She greets him with, "Hey, what can I get for you?" And he goes, "You know what bugs me?" Just real angry. And she goes, "People taking your order?" And he goes, "No, taking people's orders." She says, "Seriously, who orders you around?" And he says, "You don't know my dad." He goes on with, "Do you ever feel like if you show someone who you really are, they won't accept you?" And at this point, I hate him. Sam goes, "Yeah, you just want to be yourself and say, it's me. I'm the one you're looking for. Like you're wearing a mask. And she starts to try to tell him, but then Fiona yells for her. And so he pays, says thank you, and then leaves. So at this point, he's sat close to her, looked into her eyes, listened to her voice, listened to her say, it's me. I'm the person you're looking for. He was wearing a mask. Why does he not recognize her? Why? I demand answers. I will call my congressman.
I don't think he's face blind because that's my go-to excuse. I think he's just so wrapped up in himself that he's never paying attention to Sam when she's in front of him.
That's fair.
I don't think he even like perceives her as a person when he's talking to her at the counter. She's just there as part of her job, and he's just talking about his feelings at her, which is very rude actually, to just be like unloading all that on someone who's just trying to do their job.
Yeah, especially someone in the service industry. Don't do that.
And like she's clearly trying to tell him something, but when she's trying to tell him something, he goes, no, it's cool, I gotta bounce. Why are we supposed to like him? What is there to like about him?
I don't know. It was 2004, and I think everybody was very into Chad Michael Murray for reasons that I don't understand. So we get an exposition dump from Goth Girl over the announcements saying that there's going to be the big football game on Friday. And then we cut to the stepsisters, and they are sitting at a lunch table with Shelby and her girls, and they are fake crying and have worked up this whole story about how Sam was targeting Austin specifically and was doing it to make him break up with Shelby because she's always been jealous of Shelby, and she's pretending to be someone she's not, but she's really Sam, whatever her last name is, I don't care. And they give Shelby printouts of all the emails to verify the story. The stepsisters also give the Goth Girl an announcement and say, oh, Austin was late, but he wanted you to read this. And the announcement is, Cinderella, your prince wants to rendezvous with you after the pep rally.
And then her comment to that, superfluous to the announcement, is nothing like a pep rally to warm up our prince.
I love Goth Girl so much. So Sam is excitedly talking with Carter and says, I talked to him as me and he didn't hate me. Girl, he didn't even listen, whatever. And Carter says, you told him? And Sam goes, no.
But she says she will right after the pep rally.
Yep. Carter is dressed as a cowboy now. Why? That's part of his character. Who cares?
So we're at the big pep rally. All the cheerleaders are doing like cheerleader things. Austin's sitting in the front seat with the football team, and his dad just shows up behind him to just menace him again. And is like, good news, buddy. Just got off the phone. If you play well on Friday, your future is set at USC football.
Were you getting trauma flashbacks from the pep rallies that we had to go to?
No, because we spent the whole time just reading and being catty.
That's true. That's true.
I enjoyed those fine. I remember none of them.
I think someone made me go to one and they wouldn't let me bring a book one time, and that was fairly traumatic.
Listen, they also wouldn't let you bring books in after you finished like testing and you invented the book pants.
I did invent the book pants. It was the only day in high school I was popular because everybody else was as bored as I was. I'm just passing out fantasy novels from this pair of pants that can hold 12 full-size novels in various pockets. I still have those pants.
They're incredible.
They are. My mom made them for me because she's awesome.
So the cheerleaders put on a skit with the stepsisters acting out the parts, and Shelby is reading out loud. So there once was a frog. The frog thing is because they're the Fighting Frogs as their team.
Yeah.
So there once was a frog whose dad owned the biggest pond in all the land, but he still wasn't happy. He needed to find a princess to kiss him and turn him into a prince, and they were gonna run away together. And this is all being acted out. The gist of it is that they act out their whole relationship and reveal that he had a secret pen pal with Princeton girl, and they read their messages out loud and how they want to be at Princeton together. And the father's like, what are they talking about? They also reveal that Sam is scared that he'll reject her, that she's never had a real kiss before. And then they make the announcement that it's actually Sam Montgomery, quote, a geek, a loser, a servant girl. And the version of her on the stage, played by one of the stepsisters, skates into pie. And Austin like looks over his shoulder and everyone's like gasping, but that's the reveal. They don't go with the story that she tricked him into it, which would have made sense. They just tell the actual story of what actually happened, and the big reveal is that she's not very popular and she works at a diner. And he looks over his shoulder and he looks kind of betrayed for some reason. And Sam has tears in her eyes and he shakes his head and like looks away. And everyone's chanting, "Diner girl, diner girl."
Yeah. So I get why he's looking betrayed because they've read bits of poetry out loud
Mm-hmm.
and he has a persona in the school of football team captain, student body council president, jock extraordinaire. And he is humiliated by this. This is a severe breach of confidence. This is stuff that he did not want shared. And he thinks that she has given it to them.
Oh, okay. I didn't pick up on that.
It doesn't occur to him there's any other way that somebody would have gotten that unless she had given it to them on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So he feels very betrayed by this, which I think he acted this part very well. This part I believed. So Sam looks crushed and just devastated. He looks devastated and betrayed. And Carter, best friend, just takes her and leads her away. I love Carter. So Sam runs into her room and just collapses on the bed, sobbing. And Fiona knocks on the door, saying that she has a letter from Princeton, and she brings it in on a platter. And Sam opens it, and it is a rejection letter that Fiona has obviously forged because we saw her get accepted. Fiona says, "Oh, what is it?" And Sam says, "It's a rejection letter," just sobbing. This is the worst news on a terrible day. She's just, I feel so bad at this point for her. And Fiona tries to act sad, but she's in universe bad at acting. And so she says, "Look at the bright side. You'll have a job at the diner for the rest of your life." And Sam tries to offer up a smile and a nod, and she offers Sam a cookie. And Sam says no. And she takes a bite and with her mouth full goes, "Oh, it's so moist." Why? Why did that happen?
It's like the most iconic line
It
in
is.
this movie. It's incredible.
Which just, if that's the line that is the most iconic of your movie, you have made a mistake.
Oh yeah, no, Jennifer Coolidge is carrying this movie so hard.
Oh, absolutely. I can't imagine anyone else being cast as her. No one else
No.
could do that role.
So Sam is crying. She's going through the box of all her old memorabilia. And there's a photo of her and her father, and there's like a baseball glove in there. And she picks up the fairy tale book and she throws it across the floor. And next, we see her at the school, and she's sort of walking in the hallway, and Austin's looking at her. And Shelby says, "People like her don't belong in our world, Austin." And he doesn't say anything.
Nope.
And he doesn't go to Sam. And we see him start typing "Dear Sam," and then he erases the word Sam.
Yep. Still hating Austin, we go to the next scene, which is the diner. And Sam is scrubbing floors, and Rhonda is concerned about her and comes out with, "Seriously, what are you doing with your life? Your dad did not want this for you." And Sam responds with, "I'm a diner girl. This is," and just being whiny. And Rhonda gives her a lovely pep talk, which is, "You have a whole family behind you. We have faith in you, but you have to have faith in yourself." And the stepsisters come in, and one of the gags throughout this movie is that every time they come in, they slam the door, and the Elvis guitar wiggles. But this time, the guitar falls off, and it pulls off the wallpaper behind it, and it reveals this stupid quote.
Never let the fear of striking out keep you from playing the game.
Yep. And so Sam sees it, and those words for the first times for in a long while. So she says them out loud because the movie wants to make really sure that we know that those words are important to her. So Fiona comes in, and the stepsisters immediately go, "Mother, Sam ruined your wall." Fiona says, "Well, that will come out of your paycheck and cover up those stupid words. I need you to something, something, something. Also, I need you to clean the pool tonight." And Sam says, "No," which I liked.
Mm-hmm.
And Fiona says, "What?" And Sam says, "You heard me. I quit this job. I quit this family. I quit this house. I'm moving out." And Fiona responds with, "Oh, yeah? Where are you going to stay?" Which is a good question because this is a spur of the moment decision.
Yes.
But Rhonda, bless her heart, Rhonda steps up and says, "With me." and says that the only reason that she's stayed all these years was for Sam. Fiona threatens to fire her, and Rhonda goes, "No, I quit." And
She tries to take off her earrings, and she's clearly going to fight her. And Sam says, Rhonda, she's not even worth it. And everybody else quits, and all the customers clap, and they all walk out.
it's a good scene.
So Rhonda and Sam are at Rhonda's house, and Sam is like folding some clothes that she brought with her and is laughing about the fact that Fiona actually thought that Rhonda was going to slug her. And she says, I had no idea that you were that tough. And Rhonda says, but I always knew that you were. And it's like a really touching moment.
It is. Sam says, I haven't felt this much at home in such a long time. And Rhonda says, I'm not surprised, living with the Addams family. Pick a different comparison. The Addams family is the most welcoming, a wholesome family you could possibly pick. Why would you choose that?
Sam realizes that she's got to do something. So she says, don't wait up for me. So she goes to the big football game with the cheerleaders, and she goes into the locker room to confront Austin. And everyone's like, oh, it's a girl. And Sam goes to talk to him. He says, I know that you think I'm a coward and a phony. And she tells him, I never lied to you. I never hid who I was. You know, I was always me. And it was me who was hurt in front of everybody. And I know what it feels like to be afraid to show who you are, but I don't care what people think about me anymore because I believe in myself. And even though I have no car and no money for school and no home, it's you that I feel sorry for.
She says, I know the guy who wrote those emails is in there somewhere, but I don't have time to wait for him.
Yeah. And then she says, waiting for you is like waiting for the rain in this drought, useless and disappointing.
And it's a good speech.
It's really, really good. And he deserves every second of it. Like,
Well, and
she's
so
completely right.
Oh, she's 100% right. And what's actually better is the way that it starts is she storms up to him and he says, I know you think I'm a, and she cuts him off with a coward, a phony. It's great. She's in the middle of a locker room, which is a very not female friendly space, surrounded by football dudes who are large fellows. And she's just reading him the riot act, which he deserves. He is a self centered, obnoxious, myopic prick.
Mm-hmm.
And he deserves this. He was embarrassed, but so was she. She was humiliated and called out by name, and he had no trust in her. He's seen and talked to her several times since the ball, but has not recognized her. He deserves every single thing that she is dishing up right now. And then she walks out, and he calls after her, and she just sort of shakes her head as she's walking out and continues to storm out. At which point, we get my favorite scene in the entire movie. She walks out, and Carter runs up. And she says, what are you doing here? And he says, Rhonda said you might be here. I thought you'd need a hug. And he gives her a hug. It's so pure. It's so loving. It's such a great friend.
He says, Sam, I'm so proud of you. Your stepmom and Austin all in one day.
And she says, do you want to go do something? Basically, do you want to hang out? And he goes, well, I was going to go to the game, but if you don't want to go. And she says, no, I'm good. I'll go to the game. We'll do that. And he's dressed normal today. And she says, I like your outfit. What look is this? And he says, myself. And she goes, I think it's your best look. And it's cute.
I thought that was so unbelievably cheesy and just hammering it home so hard.
Oh, it's unbelievably cheesy and ham-handed. I am not disagreeing with you. But I like that in the same scene that she is calling out Austin for all of his flaws. Carter has also stopped hiding behind personas. Is it heavy and ham-handed? Absolutely. I still think it's a cute moment. It's not as cute as the I thought you might need a hug moment. That is just the pinnacle of bestestness.
Mm-hmm.
So then we have a football game.
And football things happen. Football guys run onto the field. Austin notices that Sam is in the stands.
Somehow. She's so
somehow
far away.
From far away. It's his superpower. He's got incredible eyesight, and that's why he's so good at football.
How good at recognizing her.
He's just so good at tracking the ball. Yeah, how is it that he can pick her out in a crowd now?
Don't know. Well, he does know what he's looking for now, to be fair. But to be unfair, football fields are quite large and the stands are pretty far away from them. And there's lights because it happens at night. So there's no possible way he could see literally anybody, let alone one specific person. Because the stands are packed. It's crowded. This is the big game.
So his dad comes up to him again. His dad has no job. He's just there to berate his son at thematically appropriate moments. He's just always at the school.
Yep.
So he comes up to him and he goes, "All right, buddy, it's the big one. You stay focused. You win it. Everyone is counting on you." And Austin aggressively throws the ball down on the ground, and we get like this moody 2000s rock again.
Yeah, overlain with football stuff. Dearest listeners, if you haven't noticed, neither Talon and I are real sportsy people.
No.
So football things happen is the best you're going to get. And frankly, you should be impressed that we know that it was football.
The crowd starts chanting Austin's name after a lot of football things, presumably good football things. He does good football.
He footballs well.
And Sam says she thought she could handle it, but she made a mistake and she needs to leave. And Carter says, "Okay, I'll let you know how it ends." And she starts to walk off. And Austin notices from the distance, and his dad is yelling, "This is the one, Austin. This is the one."
I love that moment. I did not catch that the first time I watched this. And I thought that was either very subtle and well done, or they accidentally did a subtle thing.
No, I think they accidentally did a subtle thing because his dad's been yelling that on and off like the whole time.
But he's looking at her and his dad is yelling, "This is the one." And I can't tell if they meant to do it or not.
I don't think they did. I really don't think they did. So this conflict is really manufactured with people yelling at Austin, and he feels like he has to make a decision right now. But like, does he? Doesn't matter. He's already like messed up. I don't think she needs him to like announce his feelings for her right this moment at a football game. He could do it the next day at school.
Well, I think this is more about him shrugging off the weight of expectations. Because they're kneeling in their pre-football prayer circle. And Austin basically hands the football to someone else and goes, "It's up to you," and runs off the field. And his dad stops him and grabs him by the shoulders and sort of yells, "You're throwing away your dream." And Austin goes, "No, I'm throwing away yours."
I love that line. Oh.
So he runs up the stairs, and she's at this point scooched her way over to the stairs, and he runs up to her and she goes, "What are you doing?" And he says, "Something I should have done a long time ago," and kisses her. And a single raindrop falls to land on his cheek, and thunder rolls, and the sky opens, and the drought is over. And they kiss, and Carter is still happy for her. And
he yells, "You gotta love high school." Oh,
yep.
I guess there's a touchdown, and their team won. They did the thing.
Yeah, their team
won, the
won,
game.
which does not matter at all, because the point of this was that Austin specifically had to play well to get a football scholarship to a college that he does not wish to attend. How did you feel about this?
I didn't like it.
I didn't like it either. He owes her a significant apology, a detailed, significant apology, with bullet points. He should have gone home and made a PowerPoint presentation of all the reasons that he is sorry.
That's correct. I like the public aspect of it because I feel like if the embarrassment is public, the resolution has to be public.
Yes.
But you know what I like? I like the scene in 10 Things I Hate About You, where he does like the big dance on the stands and he gets like the marching band to like play music, and that's his public apology. It's showy, it's embarrassing, and it tells everyone that he's like apologizing to her. And this is just them kissing, and it's not a grand gesture, it's not an apology. He should have done something really brave. You know, instead of walking off the football field, he should have read a poem out loud to her on the school announcements.
Yes. Let that be what happens. I would love that. Just we cut to the next morning, Sam's in school, the announcements come on, Goth Girl says something snarky, and then we hear Austin's voice reading a poem that he's written to her.
Especially since they've conditioned us to expect announcements when the school starts, and it's been such a part of the plot so far. It would have been cool if part of the resolution included that too.
This is a good kiss, though. I mean, thematically notwithstanding, this is a nice kiss. This has...
Yeah, they're kissing a lot, but I just... Ugh.
So we go back to voiceovers, and Sam goes, I got my prince and a really bad cold. It seems like that week everything fell into place. So we see her packing up her old attic room, and she picks up the fairy tale book, and something falls out, and lo and behold, it is a will. My notes go into all caps, and why would that not be filed with your lawyer? Why would you have a will that's not filed with your lawyer? Your lawyer has to give you a will. It's signed. It would be filed at your lawyer's place of business, and it would be relevant upon your death. This is stupid.
I do have a theory about this.
Please tell me your theory. I would like to hate this
Because
less.
my theory is they were reading this fairy tale book together in that moment, and I don't think he meant for that letter to be hidden. I think he used it as a bookmark because he was going to like file it in his safe or something. And in a moment of distraction, he put it in the fairy tale book knowing that they read from it every night and that it wasn't going to go anywhere. And after his death, it was too painful, so she just closed it up and put it away, and she never looked at it. And he didn't expect to die in that moment.
Yes, but there would be a duplicate filed with his lawyer. That's how law documents work. You have duplicates.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, you have duplicates so that everybody knows what to do with you when you die.
Yeah,
when
then
you
he did a bad
slough off
job.
this mortal coil. So the next scene is Fiona's fancy car getting towed. And Fiona runs out and says, I can pay for those parking tickets. And Sam, looking very confident in her blue tank top, with a group of people behind her. I think Rhonda's there.
Rhonda's there, and she's also directing the like person towing the car, saying like, and those two out front.
And Sam says, oh, I'm selling your car to pay for college. Fiona blusters, and a lawyer steps up from behind Sam and says, have you seen this before? And he holds up the will, and it's unfolded. And Fiona goes, I have never seen that before. And the lawyer turns to the second page and goes, isn't this your signature? And she blinks for a second and goes, I've never seen my dead husband's hidden will before. And it's so good. God bless Fiona. So Sam fixes up the diner. Rhonda is her business partner. It's back to its former glory. Fiona has to work at the diner as to her terrible stepsisters. Austin's dad figures out that Princeton is a really prestigious school and that he's being absurd. But the word that they use is he got off his Trojan horse. Explain to me what happened. Explain to me what the movie thinks that means.
I have no idea. I think they genuinely meant to say high horse and got confused.
God, I hope so. So Carter got a commercial for acne cream, and people are all into him now, including Shelby, who sort of sidles up to him and slips her arm through his, and he, is there a word?
Shimmies out.
It just disengages, just the way that you pull your hand out of something gross, and slings his arm around Goth Girl, who smiles up at him and puts her arm around his waist. One, if you're gonna wind up with a Carter Goth Girl romance, I would have liked it if they had interacted at all.
Yeah, I really liked the Goth Girl, and I'm delighted to see her come back, and I'm delighted that they end up together, but they should have interacted at any point ever.
So in 10 Things I Hate About You, the friend sidekick and Catherine's sidekick girl wind up together, but they have scenes together. They interact, and you get the sense that they are going to get together. It's not the main romantic plot, but it doesn't come out of nowhere.
I would have also liked it fine if they didn't imply that they were already together, if he went over to talk to her or she went over to talk to him, like something where it was just like a hint towards something starting.
But you also get the sense that she is not just sort of, oh, I'm just into you now because you're famous. You get this very much the sense from Goth Girl that she is not into appearances and she does not care, but that he probably just didn't have the confidence to ever go say hi to her before.
Right, which would have been great if the movie had played that up at any point.
It would have.
Or if he, you know what would have been great? If she had a thing about sincerity and he was always so insincere and always playing a part that it never seemed real.
I would love that. Why didn't we get that movie? Why didn't we trade all of the antics scene in for that?
because it would have been too good.
So we see Sam and Austin on a hill in a fancier car, and he kneels to her and gives her the phone back,
And
which
he tries to
implies,
put it on her foot.
yeah, I was going to leave that out because it's just so distressing.
It's really stupid. And she kind of like moves her foot away. And it's supposed to be like a fun, cute moment, but I hated it.
Yes. So the voiceover ends with we both went off to Princeton and we lived happily ever after, at least for now. Hey, I'm just a freshman. And then they drive off and the most beautiful words in the world show up on the screen. The end. And I'm going to answer this question ahead of time. I will never be watching this movie ever again. Nothing on earth could compel me to watch this again for any reason.
I've seen it quite a few times. And I feel like at some point I'm going to crave it and I'm going to be like, oh, you know, it'd be fun. I bet that movie would be fun. It's going to be a few years. It's going to take me a while to forget how stupid it is. But there are a lot of parts that I genuinely do enjoy.
I will never watch this again. I hated it in high school. I hated it more the first time we watched it. I super hate it now. It's not the worst Cinderella, but I really do despise it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a good movie. I don't know what you want me to say.
I don't know. I'm happy that it's over. I'm mad that I watched it. So, all right, let's do highs and lows. So, what are yours?
My high is definitely the friendship between Carter and Sam. Like 100% throughout the film. They're so supportive of each other. I kept waiting for something weird or gross to happen. I kept waiting for him to realize that he's in love with her or her to realize she's in love with him. And none of that happened. They were just really good friends and it was so nice.
Agreed. That is absolutely
Um,
the high of this movie. I'll pick something else, but you are correct.
and then my low is there's a lot to pick
There's a
from.
lot to pick from.
I hated Austin, but I think he does work because I find him believably terrible as like a teenage boy in high school. I
Yeah.
think the stepsisters were my low because every single time they were on the screen, I was just so annoyed and bored. And it was just the worst combination of frustrated and just waiting for their scenes to be over.
Yeah.
How about you? What are your highs and lows?
I wish you'd be less accurate with these. This makes my part of this difficult. Okay, my high is Rhonda.
Hmm.
Just how competent she is, how much of a fierce protector she is of this girl that she has watched grow, how much she lets her do her own thing, but also gives her guidance,
Hmm.
how she steps up to the bat and does not hesitate before out of the blue adopting her. My wish for everyone is that they have a Rhonda in their life.
I do wish that we'd gotten more of a sense of Rhonda as like a whole person and not just in the ways that her existence like is there to support Sam. Because I do feel like that's like a racially charged trope with the older black woman being there for the younger white girl
Yeah,
and like
it's
being her guide
literally,
and
yeah,
guiding force
it's
and like
literally the magical black person trope. I
I
didn't,
wish we had avoided that more. I feel like they really tried. They had like some good things in there, but ultimately for me, I find that it doesn't quite work for me.
yeah, that trope is definitely there, but I felt like that really wasn't what they were aiming for. I
Hmm.
I think they stumbled into that trope rather than making a decision.
I think if she hadn't given away her wedding dress,
Yeah,
I wouldn't feel like so like knotted up about it. But the fact that she gave away something so personal,
and that line of I was saving this for my second attempt down the aisle. So we get just the briefest of glimpses into Rhonda's past. And
mhm.
I do very much wish that they would have explored Rhonda further. So yes, I agree with everything you're saying, but I thought that Rhonda was an excellent character, and I really enjoy every moment that she was on screen was a moment that I enjoyed.
Hard agree for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Okay, you know what I wish? I wish they hadn't renamed it back to Hal's Diner. I wish they called it Rhonda's Diner because she clearly runs the place.
Oh yeah, or like Rhonda and Sam.
Yeah.
I get it why they changed it back to her dad's name, to,
Yeah, I mean,
in
it's
his
her
in
dad
his
and he died.
in his memory and stuff. But like, yeah. Okay, so lows, like all of it. Um, I am torn between the car wash scene
Ugh.
and the skit scene. I think the skit scene was more uncomfortable for me, but it did actually move the plot forward, albeit through an incredibly stupid way, but it did. The car wash scene was just someone's attempt at humor. So I think the low is the car wash antics scene. What would you change about this movie?
I mean, I feel like I've only been talking about what I would change about this movie.
If you could only change one thing about this movie, what would it be?
Oh, just one thing.
Well, okay, because this movie, the answer is like all of it except for the stepmother and Rava
Okay.
and Carter's friendship with her. Although I would recast Hilary Duff.
I think for me, one of the things that really rubbed me is that, like, I really didn't buy that Sam was a social pariah.
No.
And, like, that was a part of it that really didn't work. Because part of the reason that Austin doesn't get together with her is because he is still worried about his image.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that contrast should have been more obvious. So
Agreed.
maybe her clothes should have been like more bad, or she should have had like a more tomboyish thing happening, or something that made her stand out from her classmates more in a bad way. Or they could have said she always smells like grease, her hair could have been stringy,
Or
like literally anything.
maybe instead of being just a waitress at a diner, which is just a thing that people do for their jobs, maybe she has to do a job that is, but like if she was a janitor or something and she had to do like overnight cleaning shifts that was like gross physical labor, which those jobs are necessary and people need to do them. So it's not that it's a demeaning job, but teenagers suck. So if she had a less socially acceptable job, I guess. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think part of that is like if it was set at a school that was much wealthier than she was,
Hmm.
and then she was like at a like rich people school because of her grades.
Yeah, on a scholarship or something. That would make more sense.
People make fun of her because she's scholarship girl.
Yeah, that would have been reasonable.
I needed there to be a reason why she's treated so poorly by all of her classmates, because it just seemed arbitrary, and like it made it hard to identify with her because she's very pretty and
Yeah,
she's very nice, and
she doesn't
like
even wear glasses, guys. She doesn't even have glasses to take off. She
there's nothing wrong with her.
No. Maybe she could have been into theater or into chess club or something.
She could have been the goth girl.
She could have been the goth girl. That would have been the like, oh, you took your hair out of ponytails and took off your glasses and your nose ring, and now you're beautiful. I,
Which, like, I don't know the message of that, but it would have at least been like, oh, she's a weirdo.
it would have made sense. It would have been, yeah,
Or like she could have been tired all the time and she could have been like had a reputation as a stoner or something, but she's just working like
a zillion
7 days a
hours.
week. Or
Yeah,
she could have been like known as a know-it-all in school because she gets straight A's and she's like taking AP classes and she's finishing school a year early. And
yeah.
people could have acted like she thought she was better than them. Like literally anything. There's so many things that could have happened with her personality or her anything that would have made that part of the movie work.
Agreed.
What about you? What would you change?
I'd make him play baseball. Obviously, he should play baseball. They could have a meet cute that involved baseball. They could connect and talk in person, and they keep winding up at the baseball field at the same time because they're both trying to practice baseballing, and they talk about, oh, my dad taught me how to baseball. Oh, my dad and mom, when mom was alive, it was her favorite. He's probably got a dead mom. When mom was alive, she used to love baseball, and we'd all go to the big whatever game as a family. And this is the baseball through line was the through line that I hated the most because all we get is this stupid striking out line that's supposed to be inspirational. And if he had played baseball, they would have had a reason. I got the idea that he's a grade older than she is because they're graduating
Yeah.
at the same time, but she's graduating a year early. So it would have given them an excuse to run into one another. Maybe she's in a class that he's in because she's taking AP classes and just it would have given them an excuse to talk and to have something in common. Just
Okay, it also works with my change because then she could just be one of the guys, like too tomboyish for him.
yeah.
And like they're not friends, but he's seen her around and he just didn't put together that the girl on the baseball pitch and the girl in the ball gown could be the same girl.
That would make so much sense.
So, do you think our listeners should watch this?
No, I will not deny that it has turned into something of a cult classic. I don't know why, but it has. But no, don't watch this. It's dumb. It's vapid. It's unpleasant. You could cut out a solid third of it and still have a cohesive story. No, I mean, the friendship between Carter and Sam is almost worth watching it. Just that incredibly pure, beautiful friendship is excellent, and I will always enjoy that. But no, don't. What about you? Do you think our listeners should watch this?
Yeah, you could watch it. Like, if you keep in mind, this movie is not very good. So, if you're expecting something like Mean Girls, Clueless, Freaky Friday tier, that's
Yeah.
not where this is. This is a much worse movie.
Yep.
But there is enough in there that's entertaining that you could get some enjoyment out of it. And it doesn't drag as badly as a lot of these movies do.
That's true. It does move along. The pacing is decent, which is surprising given how many unwelcome antics scenes we have.
If you really feel like you want to watch this movie, you can go ahead and watch this movie.
I mean, yeah, I guess, but
watch this movie. Let us know how you feel.
Don't watch this movie. All right, what final grade would you give this movie?
I'm gonna give this movie a C-. This was not a good movie, but it was okay, but it wasn't good.
Yeah, I don't like to give things the same grade as you, but C-.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just fine. Whatever. Which movie do you think had the stronger 2004 energy? This or Elle?
The music choices in this were so aggressively 2004 that like it really transported me.
Yeah, I suppose that's fair.
But the fashion
in Elle was so 2005. It was great. So both is good. Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's almost midnight, so thanks for joining us. If you liked this episode, please leave us a rating or a review. We'd love to hear from you, so follow us at CinderPod on Twitter and Instagram, like our Facebook page, or email us at thecinderellapodcast@gmail.com. If you want bibbity bobbity bonus episodes, or to hear us discuss this week's Cinderella again, but with more adult beverages in the Ever After Party, please support us at patreon.com/CinderPod. Our intro music is Bad Ideas by Kevin MacLeod. You can find him at incompetech.com. So Liv, what are we watching next week?
Talon. Next week, we're going to watch something from 1987. It is short. It's Scroogerella, the DuckTales Cinderella. Because I make the schedule. I choose how we suffer. So next week, that's what we're doing. Buckle up.
Oh man. Okay. Well, until then, we hope you have a happily ever after.